what are the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel decks? Big dog, today is a new season, and we're going to be talking about how the new Master Duel cards stack up against what we have and the new ban list. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. So with Master Duel Season 34, a ban list and a new pack coming out, I just thought it would be best to talk about what are going to be the strongest decks in Master Duel yet again. And don't worry, big dogs, Master Duel Cali is not going anywhere. You're just going to find more Master Duel on the main channel. If you want to see nothing but Master Duel, then go ahead and check out Master Duel Cali. But in this particular tier list, we're going to be judging these strategies based on how strong they are coming into the next season, post ban list, post the new cards. So let's go ahead and get this kick started. It's a lot we can talk about, and I think it all starts off with branded. This deck did lose Yugioh the Spiritualist, which is crazy because Albion won't be summoning it to either player side of the field anymore. The bad thing is that there's still some really busted Yu-Gi-Oh cards. What's been happening to me on my Master's climb is that somebody summoned out the DDD monster, DDD Vice King Requiem, to prevent me from summoning except for DDD. Look guys, it's not as strong as Gimmick Puppet, it's not as strong as Bandit Lock, but what you could play is DD Orthros, which does Fiend Lock your opponent. Just watch out for the Fiend decks. I still think that this strategy is incredibly good. Branded has solidified itself as one of the most loved, the most hated, and one of the most powerful decks in Master Duel and in the TCG. Next is gonna be Mementos. Bro, if we get the Memento support we're supposed to get, this deck is killing everything, I'm telling you. Memento has a nasty ability to put a 5,000 attack monster on the field, but also when you have Memento Cranium Burst on your side of the field, you get 5 negations. You pair that with a hefty Appaloosa and you're negating every monster effect your opponent can fathom. I think that this deck still takes a really good pilot. There are a couple of things in Master Duel that's holding Memento back. First of all, we don't have the Memento Fusion monster, not the Twin Burst, the other one. Second of all, we don't have Memento Sleepy, we don't have Fiendsmiths, and also, of course, we don't have Memento Acheron. Those are 4 pretty huge reasons not to play Memento right now, but it's still going to be an incredibly solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck in the future. Labyrinth, or as everybody would like to say, Mommy Milkers! I even got the shirt. We mommy milking today. Ironically, Labyrinth is one of the toughest Yu-Gi-Oh strategies to play in Master Duel. I should know, I subjected myself to this punishment. It can feel like a coin flip. If you're going second, it's a lot harder. If you're going first, you can easily win, until you consider that people are playing Harpy's Feather Duster.
With Harpy's Feather Duster.
Now, I know the strategy did get Eradicator Epidemic Virus, but I don't think that that's going to be the way for the deck. I'm going to go ahead and put it in takes a really good pilot. What we're really waiting for as Labyrinth players is Simultaneous Equation Cannon. Once that card comes out, I think Labyrinth goes up to really good because being able to knock out all of your opponent's cards with simple math is incredible. Now, Heroes didn't necessarily get anything off the ban list, but with cards like Nightmare Corruptor Ibli and Yugioh the Spiritualist and also Fossildan Apache Cephalo, the deck did get stronger in going second. Stun got a lot weaker. I still think that Heroes is one of those decks that's fairly experimental. I don't think that Heroes are a bad Yu-Gi-Oh deck at all, but the problem with this deck is that it is now starting to show its weaknesses. Change of Heart is at 3, and that's a big card against the deck. I personally think that Heroes are just a little bit more support away to be put back into contention. Also, since it requires a lot of ultra rares, if you are trying to craft this deck, I would not bother. There are stronger decks you can get for about the price, if not cheaper. Dark Magician! Chat, I can't wait till you guys show me your Dark Magician meta deck so I can put them on Master Duel Cali. Dark Magician until then is Xbox crossplay off. Bro, don't make me say it. Blue Eyes is getting support. Where's the Dark Magician support? Granted, we're not going to see that Blue Eyes support until maybe like 2026, the way that Master Duel drops, but I think that Dark Magician is just challenged when it comes to climbing in the Master Duel ladder. Please do not make me play this deck to Masters. Red Dragon Archfiend for Master Duel. Come on, big dogs, you already know. I would personally put Red Dragon Archfiend here, but that's because I'm the master of faster, the king of disaster, Black Atlas. In actuality, for Master Duel, Red Dragon Archfiend is closer to here. Bro, I really don't care at this point in time if we get QE Belt, which is a great help to the strategy. One of the biggest problems with this deck is Maxi. I mean, there's other problems, but Maxi is the biggest. Playing against Maxi with this deck feels like if you don't combo, you lose. But if you combo, your opponent draws enough cards so you can lose. It's actually one of the most balanced decks in the game, and that's why the game needs change. Sword Soul is going to obviously fit in the same category as Red Dragon Archfiend. I think at this point in time, chat, we're just going to have to address our pet decks as just really fun decks, but when it comes to actual competition, it ain't it. Blue Eyes White Dragon. I think when we get the new support for Master Duel, Blue Eyes will be a top deck 100%, regardless of what happens in the OCG or TCG. Next is going to be Purrely. Purrely received absolutely no hits. In actuality, there's another one of those decks that did get stronger because of the ban list. I think that Purrely is incredibly good right now, on the cusp of greatness. Do not be surprised if Purrely starts taking over because it's such a balanced and powerful Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It is 100% worth the gems if you are looking for a powerful deck that can take you the distance. Right now, I would also put Chimera into Takes a Good Pilot. But the good thing about Chimera is that this deck will also get stronger as time goes on. There's still new illusion monsters and Fiendsmith cards that are going to come out to make this deck strong. If you're investing into this, you're a-okay with Chimera. Plus, who doesn't want to summon Yugi's favorite cards in Battle City? Next, we have Rescue Ace. You know, the cool thing about Rescue Ace here is that even with Poplar being hit to 1, I don't think that hurts the deck at all. This deck might come out as the strongest Fire King deck. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in really good. Nothing really changes for Rescue Ace. It's still business as usual. Voiceless Voice lost Jowagon the Spiritualist, which ironically, the branded version of Voiceless Voice is really freaking good when you can Jowagon the Spiritualist. I would put Voiceless Voice into Takes a really good pilot, and it's because Voiceless Voice can easily cruise past a lot of situations until you go against good players that know how to stop Voiceless Voice. Then you actually have to grind for your wins. With no support on the horizon, this deck is pretty much maxed out, but it's still really solid. Now, Centurion. Bro, look, I ain't gonna lie. I thought this deck was really good, but it turns out that I just can't beat the deck.
Nah, I'd win. Shit.
Hey, sometimes you gotta remove yourself from the situation and realize, hey, yo, you messing up. The deck not as good as you think. And I'll take that. I think that Centurion's is, this one's tough still. Okay, so on one end, while Stun did get weaker, some of the other top decks in the game also got weaker. And that's like a plus to Centurion. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's still one of the top decks. Think about it, guys. Every single Yu-Gi-Oh strategy that was top tier got weaker in some way. Whether you like it or not, they did. Centurion did not. And it was already a strategy that was really good. I think Centurion is riding on the cusp of really good and top deck, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it at the back of top deck. Salamangreat is actually secretly one of the strongest decks in Master Duel and the experimental category. Seriously, this deck is actually strong, but some of its biggest problems is almost the exact same as Red Dragon Archfiend, Maxi. Fire King with Snake Eyes Poplar to 1, Snake Eyes Ash to 1, Wanted to 1, Bonfire to 2, and Kieran to 2. Woo! Yeah, no, let's not even lie. This is still one of the best decks in the game, buddy. Those hits mean something. I'm just trying to figure out what that something is. Maybe Fire King isn't one of the strongest decks in the entire game anymore. Maybe it's just top tier. And with how many hits that it's had on the ban list, it's almost warranted. Now, Yubel lost Dark Beckoning Beast as well as Opening of the Spirit Gates to 2. There was also a combo where they would give you Nightmare Corruptor Ibly because the deck can summon so many bodies, it can cycle out Gigantic Sprite. And let's be real, those hits are not enough. Yubel is still the top deck. Now, the good thing about Yubel is that it is almost counterbalanced with cards like Change of Heart coming off the list. I really want to reiterate that Change of Heart can be something really special here, but I don't think that those hits are enough to justify Yubel not being a top deck. Next, we have Kashtira. Everybody's sick of getting a Rise Heart locked, but to be honest with you guys, outside of Shifter and some of the stun cards that it has, this isn't really a good deck. This deck can get you really far in the low ends, but once you get to the high ends, it doesn't seem to have enough. At least that's from my perspective, but to be honest with you guys, I would say it's like at the end of really good, the top of Takes a Good Pilot. It's still a really good deck, it just doesn't have enough. Ice barriers are still incredibly strong in my opinion, but I think it's time for them to go back to the drawing board and figure something else out. That Gungnir monster does go crazy. I'm telling you, that card's crazy good. The problem with this deck is that it is fragile, and players have figured out just stop the first summon. It's also not a great going second deck, so I think once it fixes those flaws, it goes up a little bit higher. Ritual Beast, the first of the new strategies. So Ritual Beast is going to be really interesting here. I think that Ritual Beast is the best shifter deck, and it's the reason why I put Kashtira below, because out of all of the strategies that we have on this tier list, Kashtira was the best shifter deck. But Ritual Beast is special. It takes advantage of shifter in a way that Kashtira does, but it also has access to Archnemis's Protoss. I think all of those elements make Ritual Beast a really good deck off the bat. The only beef with this particular deck is that it's going to take a ton of time to be able to navigate. You're going to really have to be on your P's and Q's because you only got 300 seconds. I don't think Lightsworn is bad enough to be an Xbox crossplay off with the new support, but I do think it's experimental. Players really need to get in their bag. I think they're still trying to figure out how many Tearlaments cards they should play, what Lightsworn cards they should play, and the ratios of this deck because it is hard to build. Tearlament losing Primitive Planet Carolina. Sheesh! I genuinely don't think people understand how powerful that is. Primitive Planet Paralino gave the deck an extra interruption on top of a search ability and made resources for cards like Trip of Karma. Now with it being completely useless, I don't want to say the deck falls apart, but it's not looking good. I think that Tearlament it could still be here, it could be here, it could be here. I'm gonna put it here. The reason why I'm gonna put it in experimental isn't because I think that it is as bad as these decks, but it's really about figuring out how to make Tearlaments good again. Also, if the Bestial monsters are still in the format, which it looks like it might not be, then Tearlament can be and takes a good pilot or really good. If you guys have another deck, I think that you guys play the field and see the meta a little bit, maybe play some of the other strategies that you have, and then once you check out that there's not a lot of Bestials and stuff like that, boom, go right back to tiers. So this is easily one of the experimental decks that could be all the way up here and still down here. But I do think that Purrely is a huge, huge, huge hit. Next is Beetrooper, Battle Wasp, Ragnara. Yeah, dog. Search and Maxi still ain't saving this deck. It's kind of crazy because this deck Search is one of the most busted cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's still not doing it. I think that Vanquish Soul is ironically one of those decks that takes a really good pilot. Vanquish Soul rewards you in a best of one format because it's versatile enough to go second and it's still strong enough to set up boards going first. In my opinion, the only drawback to Vanquish Soul is cards like Kashtira Fenrir at 1. But overall, if you know how to play this deck, it's incredibly solid, but you have to know how to play this deck. Ogdotic Ragnara. All right, seriously, when this deck pops off, it pops off, but when it doesn't, you get cooked. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in experimental. I think that this deck can be really good in certain instances, and then there's also times where it's just not good enough. On the flip side, I think that the best Ragnara deck is Plants, and I'm gonna put it in really good. Plants reward you for good gameplay. The only beef with this card is that just like Ritual Beast, if you cannot play against that timer, you're getting cooked. Now, Goblin Biker is coming out into Master Duel. It doesn't really have a lot of set expectations because it didn't do well in the TCG or OCG, but I think in a best of one format, it's a little bit stronger than people are going to give it credit. I'm going to put it in Takes a Good Pilot. The deck is solid, especially in a best of one series where you don't have to worry about siding against cards that would be really strong against. Trap Tricks, my boys. Yeah, go ahead. The FBI is about to get you, big dog. If I had to put it somewhere, I think it is one of those copium strategies. Like these two decks, well, I could say these 4 decks. They're actually really good. Like they have some cohesiveness to them. They're just put behind when it comes to the power scale. Dark Magician and Blue Eyes, I mean, there's almost no hope for them right now. Gen X, yeah. I mean, Gen X does have a combo where if it pops off, you win. But the problem is it loses to anything. If you stare at the combo long enough, it may just beat them. Dragons getting Chaos Space to 3 with Bestial monsters coming off the list like Druisword. This, I think, is one of the more pivotal parts of the entire format. I think that Rocket Dragon Link is going to be really good. The deck still plays through hand traps like it's nothing. It has all of the combo lines available to it. And this could be a little too high, but it could be one of them ones. Tenpai Dragon coming to Master Duel, guys. We could already see this as one of the best decks in the format, and it may be a little bit of a triangle format, right? Tenpai Dragon isn't too great against Yubel. Centurion can actually battle with Tenpai Dragon, and Yubel is pretty decent against Centurion. I think those three are going to be some of the deciding factors for the format, but keep in mind decks like Centurion can play cards like Bestials, Dragon Links will play Bestials, and of course Branded plays those Bestials. They always seem to open, so you might have to watch out for decks like Tearlament, Lightsworn, and other graveyard reliant strategies. There's also Dimension Shifter, which will be probably played by both Ritual Beast and Tenpai Dragon. You gotta watch out for certain things inside of the format, and that's what I built this tier list on. The last is going to be Thunder Dragon, getting Colossus at 3. You know what? I'm just gonna make it look pretty, and I'm gonna put it in experimental. I don't think a Thunder Dragon Colossus the 3 changes much. To be honest, this is really right here. Two new strategies that just got confirmed support inside of the new set, at least to me, is Infernoid and Gold Pride. Infernoid gets a new fusion monster that allows them to send multiple Infernoid monsters to the graveyard. And it also finally gets a link. Infernoid Flood allows you to be able to negate summons. Combine that with the new spell cards that it has, Infernoid gets a new lease on life here. But where exactly does it fit in this tier list? You know, I think outside of graveyard hate cards like Dimension Shifter, Infernoid can be really successful. I mean, we know that mill strategies are really prevalent inside of Master Duel, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a leap of faith, and I'm gonna put it as a top deck. We came off of a format where Tearlaments were highly respectable and really good, but weak to Bestials. Infernoids may be weak to Shifter, but don't share the same sentiment of being weak to Bestials. They also summon huge monsters that can act as Bestial monsters, and if you're playing Layer of Darkness, allow you to tribute your opponent's cards. Only time will tell. I think that this is an incredibly bold take, but it may be one of the more viable options with Snake Eyes. And lastly is Gold Pride. Gold Pride gets a new monster in Gold Pride Eliminator, which just so happens to be an Earth Machine. It also gets a new Synchro monster, which allows you to target a Fusion, Synchro, or Link monster on the field, up to 2 of them if your life points are lower, and destroy them. I'm gonna put it in experimental, and that may be a little bit high for Gold Pride, just like with Infernoid. See, the thing about the new cards for Infernoid and Gold Pride is that they're highly unpredictable, saying that Master Duel is different than the TCG as well as the OCG. But while Infernoid did get cards to help fix a lot of its problems, Gold Pride didn't. These new cards for Gold Pride does not necessarily fix the problem for the strategy. I think that the strategy does have a potential to be stronger than Xbox Cross Playoff, but more often than not, it's going to wind up in Xbox Cross Playoff in the next tier list. And that's all that I have for the Master Duel tier list, big dog. Let me know what you think. Did I get something right? Did I get something wrong? Go ahead and let me know if you want to see more Master Duel content, and of course, I'll catch you on the next one.